we accept the love we think we deserve.
Have you ever questioned why you stay in a relationship that continuously causes you pain? You're aware that it drains your energy, that your happiness has faded, and that deep down, the other person is unlikely to change. Yet somehow you remain. You've made promises to yourself to leave, you've tried to walk away, and each time you swear it will be different. But something invisible pulls you back. Why? What force keeps you tied to something that clearly hurts you? The answer doesn't lie in the other person. It's not simply that they're manipulative, or that you love them too deeply to go. It's not about nostalgia for the early days when everything seemed perfect. The truth is much deeper. It lives within you. The real problem is what this relationship has awakened and reinforced inside you. Toxic relationships are not defined solely by arguments, lies, or deceit. They are about the emotional patterns that live beneath the surface. The childhood wounds that never closed, the fear of being unwanted, and the endless need for approval. You're not imprisoned by the person. You're imprisoned by what the relationship makes you feel. That's why simply walking away rarely solves the problem. You can cut contact physically, but emotionally, the bond still whispers to you, replaying the good moments, minimizing the bad ones, and tempting you to give it one more chance. The real issue isn't only the relationship itself, it's the psychological bond that was formed. This bond is so powerful that it reshapes your perception of what's acceptable, convincing you to tolerate what once would have been unimaginable. But enough. This isn't about blaming yourself. You are not weak, and you are not lacking willpower. This is about understanding what's truly happening. Because once you understand, you reclaim control. And only when you have control can you really break free. So if any part of you feels trapped, if you know you need to leave but can't, this message is for you. By the end, you'll see exactly why this painful cycle keeps repeating, and more importantly, how to end it. Why do some people repeatedly find themselves in toxic relationships while others are able to walk away with clarity? The answer begins with how we learn to love. Love doesn't just appear, it's something we're taught, modeled, and conditioned to understand from a young age. From the moment we're born, our brains connect safety and love with how we're treated by those who care for us. If we were nurtured in an environment where affection was consistent and safe, we learn that relationships can be stable and trustworthy. But if love was mixed with rejection, neglect, or inconsistency, we internalize something else. That affection must be earned, that love is unpredictable, and that closeness can vanish at any moment. So, if you grew up equating love with both comfort and pain, your brain learned to see chaos as normal. When you meet someone who treats you with steady kindness, it might feel unexciting or unnatural. But when you meet someone who gives affection unpredictably, warm one day, distant the next, your subconscious recognizes the pattern. That tension between hope and uncertainty feels familiar, and your mind mistakes it for love. That's the emotional trap. You're not just attached to the person. You're attached to the feeling they represent. They reawaken an old story inside you, the desire to prove that this time, love will finally be enough. That rejection can turn into acceptance, and that brings us to one of the biggest reasons people can't let go: the fear of loss. When attachment is built on unpredictability, the thought of losing that person becomes unbearable, not because you can't live without them, but because part of you feels you must finish the story. That if you just try hard enough, you'll finally win the love you always craved. But here's the truth. You don't need to prove your worth. This relationship is not a test of whether you deserve love. The problem isn't you, and the solution doesn't depend on them. The first step to freedom is seeing the situation for what it truly is. If emotional attachment is what traps you, what keeps you stuck, the answer lies in a psychological loop that mimics addiction, a cycle called intermittent reinforcement. You may have noticed that even in your most painful relationship, there are moments that feel magical, moments when everything clicks, when they seem to understand you completely, when it feels like maybe this time things will finally change. You cling to those glimpses, replaying them, convincing yourself that this is the real version of the relationship. and that everything else is just a rough patch. But this isn't love, it's addiction. The concept comes from psychologist B.F. Skinner's studies on behavior. He found that when rewards are given unpredictably, rather than every time, subjects become obsessed. The uncertainty makes the brain crave the next reward even more. In toxic relationships, the same mechanism applies. If your partner were cruel all the time, leaving would be simple. But because they mix pain with affection, sometimes loving, sometimes cold, your brain stays hooked, always waiting for the next reward. Over time, your standards lower. You begin to accept less and less, just to feel a glimpse of the warmth you once knew. And that's the trap. This relationship was never about love. It's about control. The toxic partner, whether consciously or not, knows exactly how much affection to offer to keep you chasing it. That's why leaving feels so agonizing. Because you're not just giving up the person, you're letting go of the hope that things might change. As long as you stay in this loop, your self-worth erodes. You start to believe that you deserve less, that maybe the problem is you. And that's when manipulation takes its strongest form, through gaslighting and projection. Have you ever found yourself wondering, am I overreacting? Maybe I'm the problem. That's the effect of gaslighting. Gaslighting is when someone twists reality until you doubt your own emotions and memories. It's an extremely powerful form of psychological control because it replaces your confidence with confusion. Here's how it works. You notice something wrong, a contradiction, a lie, or suspicious behavior. You bring it up, hoping for honesty. But instead of owning up, the other person turns the situation on you. They say things like, "You're imagining things," "You're too sensitive," or "That never happened." Slowly, your certainty dissolves. You start replaying conversations in your head, questioning your own memory, even apologizing for things you didn't do. Another common tactic is projection. When they lie, they accuse you of dishonesty. When they cheat, they accuse you of betrayal. When they're cruel, they claim you're the one provoking them. Eventually, you begin to internalize their accusations, carrying guilt that doesn't belong to you. These manipulations aren't just about deflecting responsibility. They're designed to exhaust you emotionally. When your mind is tired and your self-esteem shattered, you're easier to control. You start to accept scraps of affection as though they're proof of love. If you know a relationship is destroying you, why does leaving still feel so terrifying? Often it's because of the fear of loneliness and the illusion that love can fix someone. You might think, what if I never find someone else? What if no one loves me again? What if they really change this time? That fear runs deep. Since childhood, we are taught that being alone is something to avoid. Society glorifies romantic relationships as the ultimate goal. Movies, songs, social media all push the idea that being single means something is wrong with you. Combine that fear with the broken self-esteem a toxic relationship leaves behind, and you start believing that no one else will ever love you like this person does. You convince yourself that enduring pain is safer than facing loneliness. But what you're feeling isn't fear of being alone. It's withdrawal. Toxic relationships are addictive. You're not yearning for the person. You're craving the high of the good moments, the brief phases of affection that kept you hooked. You tell yourself that if you just wait, the real version of them will return. But love doesn't transform people who refuse to change. True change requires awareness, accountability, and effort, none of which can be forced. If nothing changes after countless promises, it's because it was never going to. And while that truth hurts, staying will only hurt longer. The pain of leaving is temporary. The pain of staying is endless. Even when you know it's time to leave, your mind hesitates. That tiny voice whispers, "What if I'm making a mistake? What if I never feel this again?" That's because leaving a toxic relationship isn't just a logical choice. It's a psychological reprogramming. You have to detox emotionally. Step 1. Cut all contact. Completely. No texts, no calls, no "let's stay friends." Every interaction reactivates the bond and drags you back into confusion. You don't need closure. Closure is often just another reason to stay. If they were capable of change, you wouldn't have reached this point. Step 2. Endure the withdrawal. At first, you'll feel an emptiness. You'll miss them, not because of love, but because your brain craves what it's used to. This is withdrawal, not loss. During this phase, focus on replacing the old pattern with new habits. Fill your time with activities, reconnect with friends, exercise, read, rediscover what makes you you. Keep a list of everything that hurt you and revisit it when nostalgia tries to deceive you. Step 3. Rebuild your identity. Toxic relationships erode who you are. You start seeing yourself through the other person's eyes. Now is the time to ask, who was I before this? What did I love? What did I give up to please them? Healing means rediscovering your autonomy, your voice, and your value. You don't need another person to feel complete. The love that will truly heal you is self-love. There comes a point where you must decide, continue losing yourself in the name of a love that was never real, or finally choose you. It doesn't matter what they feel, what they promise, or how many times they swear they'll change. What matters is what you choose to accept. That inner voice whispering, "What if I'm wrong?" That's not your intuition. That's conditioning. It's the residue of manipulation, of every time you were made to believe you were the problem. No one is coming to save you. No miraculous moment will fix this. The power to end the cycle lies only with you. Because if you don't make the choice now, the pattern will repeat until there's nothing left of your sense of self. But the moment you choose yourself, truly choose yourself, everything begins to shift. The pain will still be there at first, but it won't last. Slowly, the fog will lift. You'll begin to see clearly that what you once called love was just a trap. And one day, almost without realizing it, you'll wake up and feel free. If this message reached you, take a moment to reflect. What part resonated most with your experience? Share it. Your voice might help someone else see the truth. And remember, this is only the beginning. The next step of your healing journey awaits. Don't stop here.